Hi everyone. I am back with another reaction to Linda Moulton Howe, and she enticed me this time because I could only see part of the title of her live stream, and basically it said, "Did one of the three interstellar objects have melted?" And I was like, "Linda, what happened? Did did something happen?" And now then when I opened the window, I realized it said, "Did one of the three interstellar objects have melted thermonuclear device?" So she just omitted the a melted thermonuclear device for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe there was a character limit on a title for YouTube. I mean, I guess there probably is one, but anyway. So I can't actually, it's not bad enough for me to focus too much on the grammar of this because it's a pretty minor change, but um, I did get amused by that. Anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and start watching, see what she has to say.
Hi, everyone
Hi,
here and
Linda.
around the world. Remember, back in the fall of 2017, there were astronomy headlines from the Pan-STARRS telescope in Hawaii
Oh,
that
okay.
detected the, quote, first interstellar object known to humans, close quote.
Uh-huh.
Interstellar means located among the stars, not bound to a particular sun like we are on
Well,
Earth.
yeah, from outside our solar system.
So fall of 2017 is
Oh,
when a
this is
muamua,
Muamua.
Hawaiian for scout or leader in a battle, shown here in an illustration, became
Mm-hmm.
famous as a strange sort of craft.
Yeah, let's just say I don't think they chose that name because the people who discovered it actually believed that aliens sent it or that it's an alien scout ship. Let's just get that out of the way. I don't think that's why they chose that name. I think it was um, figurative. Figurative.
Shaped object coming into our solar system. Closest to the sun on September 9th, 2017,
Mm-hmm.
traveling at 56,880 miles an hour, and then it changed course rapidly, heading away from Earth at 97,200 miles an hour, and continues speeding
Okay.
out of our solar system.
So,
European space
was this like a slingshot effect kind of situation? It's slingshotted around the sun. I know that that's a thing, like when they go to the moon or something, they like use the earth's gravity to like help propel us there, so maybe it's doing the same thing.
Agency astronomer Marco Michelli was surprised
Wait, sorry, that sounded like I was imputing some kind of consciousness to the thing. No, like just that that's what happened, not that it intended it.
that, quote, Oumuamua was not slowing down as fast as it should have under gravitational forces alone,
Okay.
close quote. An American astronomer, Karen Meach, at the University of Hawaii in Honolulu, said,
Mm-hmm.
quote, we've never seen interstellar objects pass through our solar system before.
Uh-huh.
2 years later, another interstellar object showed up in fall of 2019 when an
Oh,
amateur
okay, so
astronomer
this is like, is this like, oh my god, the aliens are coming, they're sending all the interstellar objects. I think that's what we're going for.
in Crimea named Borisov
Mm-hmm.
discovered the first interstellar comet,
Okay.
shown here at its closest on the left and farthest on the right. The orbit of the
Mm-hmm.
Borisov 21 comet
I wonder what
was
that thing
calculated by the
is.
Jet Propulsion Lab in California. JPL confirmed the comet came from somewhere else in our Milky Way galaxy.
Okay.
Point of origin unknown.
I mean,
Therefore, this
sure.
comet was
How would they?
also an interstellar object not bound to our sun, and was
Mm-hmm.
only the second interstellar object known to humans since Oumuamua in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Could there be other?
I wonder if this has, I mean, this does seem to all be very recent. I wonder if this has something to do with some like new equipment or, I guess this was Hubble, but like, that there's some reason that they can detect these now because I don't believe that there have not been interstellar objects moving through our, solar system every once in a while forever because I guess, we're hurtling through space, our solar system is hurtling through space, and space is really big and there's a lot of stuff in it. So I don't know. I mean, seems like it would make sense that that happened. Anyway.
Interstellar objects that have impacted Earth. One scientist
Oh,
deeply
Avi
interested
Loeb.
in
Okay, I know about Avi Loeb. Avi Loeb is Harvard. He was the head of the physics department, I think. But now he's into UFO stuff. But he still like is an actual scientist, so he's not out there enough to claim that he knows how like spaceships work or any of this stuff, but he does seem to believe that some of this I think what he seems to believe is that some of this stuff like the Oumuamua and such could be remnants from alien civilizations of some kind. They could have that origin. That's my understanding of his whole thing. He also has like I think it's is it the Galileo Project? He has some kind of institute that he's trying to get money for, so that's another thing.
interstellar objects is Harvard University professor of science Avi Loeb, PhD, who directed Harvard's astronomy department for a decade.
See, they have to point out she has to point out when there's someone who has a PhD who is an actual scientist who has a prestigious position, because most of the people she talks to are, I guess, at best former military, at worst random graphic designers. Or that guy in the last one who like made spiritual music or something.
And is now director of the Institute for Theory and Computation and head of the Galileo Project, both at Harvard. Professor Loeb told me that in January.
I mean, I think that those projects are at Harvard because he got the money to fund them, like that he went out and shilled for them and got the money to fund them. And so I'm sure if you go to Harvard and you're like, hey, someone is giving me millions of dollars to start this institute, do you want me to house it here where I am a professor? They will be like, yes, please give us that money.
Of 2019.
It doesn't mean that it's a credible or good project. I don't know.
He was doing a radio interview when he was asked about a meteor falling near the Bering Sea in December of 2018, but he had not heard of it. And he searched the web for more information. And that's when Professor Loeb found this NASA JPL Center for Near Earth Object Studies that listed a catalog of meteors detected by United States government sensors. There had been 273 such meteor lists over a decade. Professor Loeb asked his undergraduate PhD student Amir Siraj to study the meteor list for any recorded velocity moving faster than escape speed from our solar system. And that NASA catalog of bolide events is where Professor Avi Loeb and Amir Siraj found this near-Earth object catalog reference to a 2014 meteor that might be interstellar. Quote, it says 0.45 meteor detected at 2014-01-08, which means January 8th, 2014,
Why does she have to
at
explain the date to us?
17:05:34 UTC, which is Coordinated Universal Time.
I mean, I guess it's not an American date sequence, so maybe.
And it was as if it were originating from an unbound hyperbolic orbit with 99.999% confidence.
Okay, what does an unbound hyperbolic orbit mean? Because I assume that's just like the shape of its movement, right? So does that mean something else other than that?
The U.S. Department of Defense has since verified that the velocity estimate reported to NASA is sufficiently accurate to indicate an interstellar trajectory in this case, close quote. They learned that 9 years ago, on January 8th, 2014, quote, a meteor lit up skies while traveling at more than 100,000 miles an hour, close quote, into the ocean waters surrounding Manus Island in Papua New Guinea.
Okay.
1,300 miles from Darwin, Northern Australia. The speed and angle in which the object plunged down through Earth's atmosphere could be interstellar debris that sank to the ocean floor.
Oh.
And so Professor Loeb and Amir...
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I know where this is going. I think Avi Loeb like took some of his students out into the ocean and they like found stuff that they think is aliens.
Raj wrote a paper for an astronomy journal hypothesizing that this Manus Island event was from an interstellar object.
Okay.
Their paper was not accepted, but U.S. Space Command must have been following Professor Loeb's efforts.
Okay. So they got turned down.
On April 15th, 2022, the New York Times headline, quote, "Military memo deepens possible interstellar meteor mystery. The U.S. Space Command seemed to confirm a claim that a meteor from outside the solar system had entered Earth's atmosphere, but other scientists and NASA are still not convinced," close quote. The U.S. Space Command memo, dated March 1st, 2022, is from John E. Shaw, Lieutenant General, U.S. Space Force, Deputy Commander in Department of Defense.
Okay, I have to say, this is all interesting, but I'm just waiting for it to take a nuts turn, like a totally bananas turn, because I feel like that's often what happens with Linda. So, but for now, let's learn about interstellar objects.
U.S. Space Command, Peterson Space Force Base in Colorado, 80914. Memorandum for NASA Science Mission Directorate attention, Dr. Thomas Zurbuchen. The subject line is confirmation of interstellar object.
Okay, I'm gonna have cut that out because she literally just did read this whole thing like verbatim, which is boring.
To me, about why he thinks the January 2014 Manus Island event in Papua New Guinea was interstellar.
This object was moving so fast that even outside the solar system, it was moving at 60 kilometers per second, which is faster than 95% of all stars in the vicinity of the sun. So it was moving too fast to be bound to the sun. And then the government provided more data on the object. The object is actually tougher in material strength than all other...
Yeah, see, these are these little things that he found in the ocean. But I don't know. But the thing about it is that, like, he's a physicist, and I don't know what his specialty is. I guess an astrophysicist would probably. But does that mean, like, wouldn't this be like a material science kind of thing or something? You know, like, who would be the specialist to look at this and figure out what it is? Because I feel like it probably wouldn't be him. Because, I mean, this is not, I don't know. Anyway.
Space rocks in the catalog of NASA. So this object was unusual in two ways. One is high speed, but the second is material strength. Because of that, we thought maybe it's artificial in origin, technological. Because if you imagine...
Material strength. What is material strength? Where is that explained? Okay, I feel like I don't know where I missed this, but he's talking about material strength, and, like, how would they know? I mean, because wouldn't they have to find... I mean, I guess that they could, like, spectrometer it, maybe, and that's how they would know what was in it, possibly. I'm not really sure how that works. But, yeah. So, I guess because of what it was made out of, I suppose, he thinks it might be from aliens.
Our own spacecraft that is heading towards interstellar space, colliding with another planet in 1 billion years, it would appear as a meteor. Also, it would move faster than usual because it has propulsion.
Okay.
By July 5th, 2023, Professor Loeb had completed a $1.5 million expedition to Manus Island in Papua New Guinea with deep sea divers. And they lowered a sled covered with magnets down onto the ocean seabed to drag the magnets over the sea floor. And to the right of Professor Loeb is a photo of one of the approximately 50 golden marble or sphere. It's enlarged in this photo. They are very tiny spheres.
Yeah, like it's a sphere and it's at the bottom of the ocean. And I mean, I could believe that. I mean, just because I guess one of the things I do here is try to imagine the naturalistic explanations for some of these things that my layman brain can come up with. But I mean, I would imagine that there could be forces in the ocean, and there's, you know, sand and so, we have like glass pebbles that are made by ocean water or just friction over time wearing them down. Like, I mean, I guess this is spherical. Maybe that feels unusual, but I mean, I would believe that something spherical could be made by a process similar to that. Yeah, and I mean, I guess maybe the thing here is that it's metal that's at the bottom of the ocean, but I mean, the whole Earth is, you know, has metal deposits in it in places, and why wouldn't the ocean also have metal in it? I mean, I don't know.
Only a millimeter or less, and way less than a milligram.
Okay.
Another scientist who took notice of Professor Loeb's research was John Brandenburg, PhD, plasma physicist with Kepler Aerospace Limited in Midland, Texas,
so he's working for
and author of a 2015 book about radioactivity in the northern hemisphere of Mars. The explosion.
What I gather from this is that this is a guy who thinks that there was a nuclear war on Mars. Okay. Just so we're clear.
John estimated to be the first of 2 hydrogen bombs over the Cydonia and D&M Pyramid region, where the big face on Mars is sculpted in the hill.
This is so dumb. This face on Mars thing is really annoying because basically this is an artifact of a picture that was taken with equipment that I guess wasn't, you know, as sophisticated as equipment that we have now. And they've taken subsequent pictures of this same structure, and it does not look like a face any longer when you look at it. Like, it's the way it looks on here. Well, first of all, you know, obviously humans have this thing called pareidolia where we like see faces in things because faces are important to our survival as a species, and we've developed this, I don't know, instinct for this, and we want to see faces in things. So yeah, so that's why it looks like a face. I mean, if I don't know, like, but the truth is that I also think that this like picture is really pretty old. It's like an early image of Mars. But anyway, they've taken subsequent pictures of this, and it doesn't look like this anymore. I mean, it never looked like it. Like, when you see what it really looks like, there's no face there.
The face is a rock formation on the surface of Mars, resembling an enormous humanoid face staring straight up into space. It is about 2.5 kilometers long by 2 kilometers wide and about 0.4 kilometers tall. It is located on a flat...
This is that Linda should know this. Like, Linda should know this. Like, this is Linda's job. Linda does this all day. This is her form of income. This is what she does all the time. And you would think that if she had this, like, oh, okay, there's this face on Mars. Okay, the face on Mars, as far as I know, just shows up in this one image. You would think that she would be like, huh, you know, like, I wonder if they've ever taken other, you know, if there are other images of this same area. Maybe they've taken subsequent images. I want to see what those look like. Maybe I can see the face in more detail in these other images. You know, you think she would look for that, and then hopefully, would see that and be like, huh, I guess maybe it wasn't a face after all. Or like, probably what would happen, she'd be like, they blew up the face to hide everything. But anyway, but like you would think, as someone who has made this her whole life, that this is, I mean, it seems clear to me that this is her passion, that she would have more curiosity about the things that she talks about.
Plane known as Cydonia Mensa in Mars' northern hemisphere. Mm-hmm. The face and other objects described on this page were imaged by one of the Viking orbiters in the summer of 1976.
Yes, exactly. This is from 1976. Maybe look at some other image that's been taken of this at any point in, subsequently.
After studying Professor Avi Loeb's magnetic dredging efforts near Manus Island in Papua New Guinea, John Brandenburg published this paper online in the September 30th, 2023 International Journal of Innovation, Scientific Research and Review.
Okay, this journal has a ridiculous sounding name to me, and seems like it's probably one of the places where you can pay to get them to publish and say you're in a journal. Probably. I don't know if that's true, but this has come up a lot when I've looked into this stuff. Actually, I think this came up particularly. I went to this Body, Mind, Spirit Expo locally. It's this sort of traveling festival of this kind of stuff. And so I went there, and I went to this presentation from this woman who makes magnetic jewelry that protects you from 5G. And basically she was like, I'm a scientist of some kind. I don't remember exactly what her background was. And there's scientific evidence that 5G is bad for you. And she's like, it's all on my website. And then I went and looked at the papers that were published, and it was really obscure stuff. The journals were obscure, or the journals seemed suspect. Not anything that, it just didn't come across, it didn't come across as credible. And I do wonder about this. Yeah, also it says received July 18th, accepted 19th of August, published online. I wonder what that, okay, anyway, I don't know enough about this, but.
The title is Interstellar Sample Analysis, a failed Project Orion type interstellar probe sent to investigate Earth?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Here now is John Brandenburg.
Oh, okay.
Normally a meteor that comes in and has a lot of iron in it also has a lot of nickel. So the first flag that this is an unusual sample is that it had almost no nickel in it. And even though it had...
Are we... See, my question is, how are we sure that the little metal spheres that Avi Loeb found are from this meteor, right? Because, basically they were just I guess they knew where the meteor had landed in the ocean. Let's just posit, that maybe it was, or it did land around there and whatever. I mean, it's the ocean. I mean, it could be anywhere by now, I don't know. But how do we know that specifically those spheres came from this meteor? Did they do? I mean, how did they know that it was material from this meteor instead of something from Earth?
More than the usual amount of iron relative to silicon. So basically they use the carbonaceous chondrite compositions as a yardstick, kind of as a measurement to see how strange is this thing that came falling in. And most meteorites fall right on this curve, abundance of elements.
And what is it about these spherules that have provoked you and Avi and this paper to say that the fragment resembles the composition of a melt processed in a fragment of a former planetary molten core, but resembles the composition of a melt processed and partially burned sample of a high-strength aerospace fragment of a
high strength. Okay. let's read this whole sentence. However, nickel is anomalously sparse in the composition. Okay, it doesn't have as much nickel as you would expect from comparing it to other meteors, if this is even from a meteor. I don't know. Suggesting this is not a fragment of a former planetary molten core, which I guess is what you would, maybe that's what you would typically think if you found something, metal pieces in a meteor. I don't know. But rather resembles the composition of a melt processed and partially burned sample of a high strength aerospace alloy. What are we comparing it to? Like, how would we know that it's a high strength aerospace alloy? Like, are we comparing it to aerospace alloys that we make on Earth? And is there a lot of iron in aerospace alloys that we make on Earth? I mean, I don't know. I mean, my understanding isn't, I should ask someone who knows, but like, for weight reasons, aren't planes and things like that often made with lighter things than iron? Anyway, but like, how would you know that? I feel like this, honestly, I feel like doing these videos every single day. I feel like I realize there are so many things about the world that I am actually ignorant of. I don't know what aerospace alloys are made of. I have no idea. I guess I sort of suspect that aluminum is involved, because I know it's a light metal, and planes kind of look aluminum-y. And probably you wouldn't use stainless steel because that's quite heavy. But, I guess it's true. Like, I mean, this does reveal my ignorance. Maybe I also need to be more curious about the world, like I am asking of Linda. So yeah, maybe I will. I'm going to look up after this video, what aerospace alloys are. And maybe I'll learn something.
Melted and partially oxidized thermonuclear device.
Yes. There's two elements that are very rare that are light. Hydrogen is, of course, the most abundant element. Helium is the next most abundant. Mm-hmm. And then the nuclear physics in stars skips over these other things that are lithium and beryllium. So they're both quite rare. They're concentrated on Earth by various chemical processes, some of which have to do with bacteria liking them, and they form deposits that are concentrated. Normally in a meteorite, you hardly find any lithium or beryllium. They're cosmologically very rare. Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen are the next most abundant elements. But there's this big chasm between helium and the abundance of helium and the abundance in hydrogen and the abundance of oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen. And that chasm represents the lithium and beryllium, very rare elements.
Okay. And so when they show up,
I'm assuming what he's saying is that hydrogen and helium are common, and then, like, I think what he's doing, and maybe I should look this up. I'm not gonna look up aerospace alloys in real time for some reason, but I will look up this. Okay, so that my instinct was right. So basically what he's saying is that hydrogen and helium, are at the very top of the periodic table, and then if you go like one level down, you get lithium and beryllium. And he's saying, hydrogen, helium, very common, lithium, beryllium, very rare in space. And then, like, after that, you have boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, also more common in space. And he's saying, okay, there's this, gap between how much beryllium and lithium there are in space, or just, as we know, in general in the universe, I guess, or at least in our solar system, and how much there is of these other elements. So anyway.
Means that something is unusual.
Yes, it means this is a very strange object, because these are like 1,000 times more concentrated in these spheroids than you normally find in anything from an ordinary meteorite. These are not garden.
He's saying that the spheroids have a lot of beryllium and lithium in them. And I guess this is like thermonuclear weapon components. Why didn't I even read the possible, sorry, I think that I may have moved this window. Possible thermonuclear weapon components. I didn't even read, how would you come up with that? I mean, I guess, we probably know what's in our own thermonuclear weapons, but like, would we know what the people on Mars had used in their thermonuclear weapons? I mean, I guess it sort of has to be a similar principle. I don't know. Anyway, that was wild.
Variety of spheroids at all. They're extremely unusual. The other things that are abundant in them, and unusually so, making this doubly strange. So you have the two light elements, beryllium and lithium, but you also have uranium and thorium, and those are components of nuclear bombs. And thorium was used heavily in the Amchatka test up in Alaska.
Okay, so like those are elements that are used in nuclear weapons. They're also elements, which means that they exist in the universe, and not all amounts of uranium and thorium in the universe are in nuclear bombs. Like, first of all, because we had to get them from somewhere to put them in the nuclear bombs when we made them, right? So why would that mean that this is a nuclear bomb? It just means it has these elements in it.
When they set off a space nuclear warhead underground at 5 megatons, it caused a small earthquake in the Aleutians. And so those uranium and thorium are very rare in the cosmos, and so are beryllium and lithium. But uranium and thorium are rare because they're very heavy. Lithium and beryllium are rare because, interestingly enough, they're very light, and they don't fit into the cosmic nuclear processes very well. So when you find those four things together in something, this is doubly strange.
And this object was...
Yeah, that, I mean, okay, it's an unusual object. It also looks like it has all these other elements. So like there's a fair amount of, well, let me see which ones I can guess, because I vaguely remember this from high school. Aluminum, potassium, calcium, iron, Ga. Okay, silver is in there, like in a low amount. Zinc, magnesium, sodium, silicon, yeah. So but I mean, it also looks like this thing is an amalgamation of a ton of stuff, because you have all of these. Here's my cursor. You have all this stuff up here. I don't know what this is. I assume these are concentrations. This is like a concentration level. So you have this beryllium, lithium, thorium, and then a bunch of other stuff in here, and some other stuff over here. So this sample is made up of a ton of different things, which also seems unusual to me, right? Because if we obviously aliens, I don't know, aliens could be crazy, they could be weird, they could think about things in a completely different way from us, they could have, their science could operate, I mean, I assume that the laws of physics apply to everyone in the universe, but maybe the aliens have gone beyond us in science in a way that we can't understand. I don't know. But when we make materials to use, I feel like they don't actually often have this many variants of this many elements, right? Or at least, I mean, not intentionally. And I mean, I guess if you're saying the beryllium and lithium and the uranium and thorium are like intentional additions because this is a nuclear weapon or something, then you would have to think that all of this stuff in here is probably intentional too, because it's in the highest amounts, right? And this is like a ton of different elements that I don't even know what they are. So, I think that's cerium. Is that cerium? I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what they are. But you would have to think that this is also intentional, right? And so this thing has, I don't know, I haven't counted them, but this thing has like 20 different components. And it just seems like we don't usually make materials that way. I mean, if I think of, I don't know. I mean, we make alloys, but usually we don't make alloys out of like 25 different things. So why would you think that this was artificially made versus made by some natural process? Like, what would tell you that?
Coming in so fast. It was coming from outer space. It was not some errant random missile.
No, it was not. It was not a missile, not a satellite. It was not a meteorite of any ordinary sort. It fell from interstellar space between the stars.
Yes.
The four elements, beryllium, lithium, uranium, and thorium, are components of hydrogen bombs.
Right.
Okay, I just think that's stupid, right? That's stupid because, again, like I said, they're components of nuclear bombs when we make them. We make nuclear bombs. Like, nuclear bombs don't just exist in nature on their own. I mean, I guess the sun, maybe? No, that's fusion anyway. But, like, we make the nuclear bombs, and we choose to use these components to make the nuclear bombs. So they come from somewhere. We get them from somewhere. I'm assuming we mine them in some capacity and then use them for this. So, like, why would this mean that this was a nuclear bomb? It could just be that these are elements that exist in the universe.
Place you find that combination of rare elements mixed together is in a hydrogen bomb. Or if you took a hydrogen bomb and melted it and then had it break up in the atmosphere like it was a nuclear warhead coming in and it melted and then ended up breaking up and showering into the ocean, then you would find steel, and you would probably find titanium and aluminum because those are both components of aerospace alloys, and you find a lot of that in these spheroids. But then you find these four very rare elements all together. This is very odd. Well, it's very concerning because if it is consistent with a melted nuclear weapon, this is not an academic matter anymore. This is a matter of global security for the whole human race.
Listen, if the aliens have super nuclear bombs and they're in space, and clearly if they're in space and doing interstellar travel of some sort, they're way more advanced than we are. Like, what are you gonna do about it? Like, if the aliens have super nuclear bombs and they're in space and they are better at everything than us and we're just big dummies, then, like, I don't know. I guess they're just gonna bomb us and we're all gonna be dead. Like, it doesn't, I don't know. It's so crazy to be like, okay, this is a matter of global galactic security or whatever. It's like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? I mean, we don't even have, like, foolproof systems to prevent our own selves destroying and attacking each other, right? So, like, what are we going to do about the aliens with their nuclear weapons in space? Like, nothing. We're going to do nothing. Maybe we should worry about problems that we can actually do something about, and not this thing that, like, no one could possibly prevent.
Are there nuclear weapons out there?
It's not even real,
on board spacecraft?
And you've already raised that question in your Death on Mars, having to do with hydrogen bombs in Mars, in the Cydonia Northern Hemisphere region.
Oh, yes. And I have presented now papers at the Ascend meeting of AIAA. People, they were stunned that I had found this. It explains...
Okay, I'm going to quickly look up AIAA to see what it is. Maybe I should look up components of aerospace alloys. AIAA SciTech. Okay, AIAA is the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. That conference that he was talking about is the premier aerospace R&D conference. I mean, I don't know. I that's all I found. Actually, I forgot to look up aerospace alloys. Let's do that. Okay, it seems like there are three main categories of aerospace alloys: aluminum alloys, stainless steel alloys. I guess they do use steel in space, so maybe I'm a dummy. And nickel-based alloys. So I guess this. I guess this could all, but yeah.
Facts, as we know them on Mars, there was apparently a thermonuclear holocaust on Mars involving hydrogen bombs. If they were hydrogen bombs, they were as big as the Empire State Building and dropped from space onto Mars.
You're talking about the work that you have done on the Cydonia region in northern Mars.
Yes.
And that the significance to you in your mind between your Mars work and now the analysis on the New Guinea, the medal that Avi Loeb got, what does that set off in your own mind in terms of thinking about the universe that we're in, and that there would be signatures of hydrogen bombs in the northern hemisphere of Mars, and that there would be other signatures down in Papua of melted and oxidized thermonuclear devices?
Well, it says that we are not alone in the universe. And as above, so below. There is, just as there is good and evil on Earth, there is apparently good and evil in the rest of the cosmos. People learned how to build nuclear weapons from looking at the stars. That's how Einstein came up with E equals mc squared. They knew that the sun was producing all of this energy, and it couldn't be explained by any chemical process. It had to be some other process, and he figured out what it was. It was conversion of mass into energy. Mm-hmm. And that's the same physics that occurs in a hydrogen bomb. And we had been watching for years that certain large stars, when they got old, the big stars, Linda, don't go out quietly.
Is this where the people who are upset by this report, is that it automatically indicates the existence of nuclear weapons?
The people who are upset by this report, is this the people who don't believe this report, who don't agree with this report, who, like, that they're mad because they don't want to validate the existence of thermonuclear weapons in space? What if they just think you're wrong for good reasons?
In this part of the Milky Way galaxy or beyond, and beyond Earth?
Yes, technology is out there just like it is on Earth. The same laws of physics are present elsewhere in the universe. There are also intelligent beings who...
Okay, I'll take it. I agree that the laws of physics should be the same throughout the universe. I believe that it's likely that there is intelligent life out there in the universe. So therefore, it's possible for the intelligent life out there in the universe to create nuclear weapons. I guess theoretically, like just probability-wise, they probably would have if we have. But I do not believe that you have found melted nuclear weapons in the ocean around Papua New Guinea. I just don't believe it.
Discovered them and able to employ them. This is very disturbing to some people, but also it should be actually expected. If we begin with the premise that we are not alone in the universe, there are other intelligent beings out there in the stars, which is a scientific certainty in my viewpoint.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
there's abundant evidence to indicate that the Earth and its people, its biosphere, are not unique in the cosmos. Mm-hmm. So there are other people out there, and they have also mastered space travel. In fact, they're even more advanced technologically than us.
Well,
They've probably been around.
I don't know if that's true. We don't know if that's true. I mean, again, I guess probability-wise, I guess it's possible. But, I mean, I feel like everything that I have learned and read recently, I read like I wish I could find it. I read a really interesting essay recently by someone I think who is a physicist of some stripe, who was basically like, listen, man, everything that you see in sci-fi just like couldn't really happen. basically talking about how, from what we know about, I don't know how physics works, that just the kind of interstellar travel that we see in Star Trek or any kind of fiction is just not in any way possible, that well, I mean, that we know of, but like just doesn't seem physically possible, like, at all. That's what they were saying in this essay. Gosh, I wish I could find it. But you know, so that's one thing. And then, like, also recently, I think I actually heard this at like a UFO event or something, but that a lot of the planets that they found that are Earth-like, a lot of the exoplanets that they found are a lot bigger than Earth. And so they have a lot, so if they're bigger than Earth, then their gravity is stronger than Earth, and that basically it would be much, much more difficult for them to create, you know, for them to engineer space flight, because escape velocity would just be so hard to achieve in that setting. I think that's really interesting, actually. But yeah, I mean, just this idea that, like, because there's intelligent life in the universe, that it's likely that somehow that validates your theory that this is a melted nuclear weapon, and that someone used nuclear weapons on Mars. Like, how do those two things don't go together? Like, one does not validate the other.
Longer than us, much longer.
Right.
And they have nuclear weapons technology, which anyone who develops space travel and looks at the stars can figure out. There have been extraterrestrial Einsteins out there.
Sure.
And that doesn't mean that they mean us any harm. It does, however, mean that the stars are a realm of conflict between good and evil, just like we have on Earth.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good and evil, I don't know.
So that means only 3 interstellar objects known to humanity ever as of now. But I think for all of you, I know I feel this way, that we're not alone in this universe.
Okay.
And that coming in the future could be a whole lot of interstellar objects and events.
I mean, I guess it's possible.
Just waiting to unfold when we are finally released from the strange classified reality that we are alone when we are not. Mm-hmm. So interstellar to Earth.
Okay.
It is a grand, huge mystery. And I'm glad that we are able to talk about these subjects on Wednesday nights.
And that we are too.
I'm so glad that we keep growing, and that I've had a lot of you ask me about upcoming conferences and appearances, and if there are any updates on Interstellar or anything else. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of you in Los Angeles at the...
I mean, I assume that she's met Avi Loeb at some point, but, like, I wonder what Avi Loeb thinks about her. So my perspective on Avi Loeb is that, like, I think he's a little out there, but he's a little less out there than some of these people, because I guess, you know, he does have some actual knowledge. But basically, when I was watching, for our podcast, I was watching the UAP, there was a UAP disclosure congressional briefing that had a bunch of people in it. So one of the people is this guy, Eric Davis, who does have a physics PhD, but, you know, didn't have the kind of distinguished career that Avi Loeb had. And he, you know, I think worked for this Bigelow Aerospace, which is this aerospace company started by this, I think he was like a hotel magnate or something, as like a pet project. And maybe there was some subcontracting for the Pentagon on their kind of UAP investigations. Maybe he worked on that. Anyway, but he also is someone who told a congressperson that the aliens are probably 6 to 9 feet tall, and named several species they could be. So, like, this guy is a little out there. And so he was talking about his theory about how space travel could work, and he was like, okay, well, there's like a warp bubble, and it's inside a warp bubble, and space-time is different in the warp bubble, and Jesus does this. And basically Avi Loeb, who was there, interrupted him and was like, I just want to say that we don't know how any of this works, that we actually have no idea. And basically to say, like, for you to say this so confidently is ridiculous because we actually have zero idea how any of this works. And so I guess for me, I would take him slightly more seriously than some of these people, but I do wonder what he thinks of Linda if he has met her.
X Hilton, and that is for Conscious Life Expo, which is the February 9 to 13 in the new year of 2024. And then the Sedona Ascension Retreat in Sedona in March 8 to 10, 2024. And they're going to be fun. I hope I get to see a lot of you there. And you can keep track of conferences and appearances.
Oh, I thought this was a new episode, but she's talking about conferences in 2024, so I guess it must be an old one. I guess it has to be an old one because she's not talking about Atlas, whatever, Atlas I3 or whatever it was. Because I think that was supposed to be an interstellar object too, like an interstellar comet or something like that. So yeah, I guess this has to be old. Anyway.
My schedule by going to my earthfiles.com news website and click on conferences and appearances, and we'll have details in there for all of you. So with that, as we are getting closer and closer and closer to the end of 2023, and with a sense that I think is coming to me from people who are working in, we'll say, classified areas, 2024 could be one heck of a year. And
well, I guess it was.
I want to urge everyone who feels like I do, when you concentrate on positive, when you concentrate on light, I think that you can help shift away from the dark. And let's hope it seems like it could be from the vantage point at the end of 2023. And with that, dear Ian, in England,
she's calling for comments. She's going for comments, and I don't usually find the comments that interesting. Yeah, so all right. That was I was hoping for an episode like the last one where I don't know, I got to laugh out loud at some hand-drawn alien pictures. I always enjoy those. But this was interesting because of the nuclear bombs on Mars, the nuclear bombs that melted and got hurtled into the ocean on a meteor somehow. It's just, it is weird. It's weird when there are these people who do actually have some kind of training. I mean, you do have to do a decent amount of work to get a PhD. You do have to know real stuff. You're not going to get out of a PhD program. Well, I mean, I guess they're probably fraudulent PhD programs. That you could just buy one maybe or something and put that by your name. But in general, you do have to do some work. You do have to have some actual knowledge to get out of a PhD program with a degree. And it's just, I do wonder what happened to these people that makes them move in this direction. I guess, maybe it's a almost quasi-spiritual thing. Maybe you had an experience, maybe you're an experiencer, and that is turning you towards this. But I just don't understand how you, as someone who is a physics PhD, gets to the point where you're yes, there was a nuclear holocaust on Mars. How did you get there? It just doesn't, I don't know. It just does make me wonder. There's just these huge leaps in logic that just don't seem to me to obviously not make sense. But we shall see. Anyway, thanks for joining me, everyone. And I'll see you again soon.